Michael, you often say that Bhagavan talked about Icchā, Kriyā, Svatantra. Where exactly does Bhagavan talk about this idea or term? Thank you.
Well, this is one of the things that hasn't been well recorded anywhere. But for example, in talks and day by day and things, we see occasional references to free will. But in fact, in Tamil, there's no exact equivalent of free will. The term Bhagavan used was Icchā Kriya Svatantra. Icchā Kriya Svatantra means freedom or independence. Icchā means will, Kriya means action. So we have freedom of will and action. Whereas the English term free will is a very imprecise term, because if we talk about free will, what are we talking about? Are we talking about will, or are we talking about the freedom of the will? That is, there are many people who deny that there's any such thing as free will. But we cannot deny the fact that we have a will. We all have likes, dislikes, desires, attachments. This is our will. The question is, do we have freedom of will? Bhagavan very clearly says, yes, we do have freedom, because the nature of the will, that is, the will manifests in the form of likes, dislikes, desires, and attachments. But the seeds that give rise to all of these are what are called vasanas. Vasanas are the inclinations. But we are not bound by our inclinations. Sometimes we may be inclined to do something. We may be inclined to speak some harsh words to someone. But we have the freedom. When that inclination to say something harsh, something unkind rises in us, we have the freedom. Do we allow ourselves to say those unkind words, or do we restrain ourselves? Because along with that inclination, we also may have an inclination to not to hurt someone. So though that person may have done wrong, we don't want to hurt their feelings, so we try and put it in a gentle way. So as Bhagavan said, vasanas are rising in constant numbers, like ocean waves. They're constantly rising in our mind. All mental activity is nothing but a play of vasanas. But all types of vasanas are in our mind. We are the ones who choose which vasanas we follow. So that's where our freedom lies. And freedom of, when we follow any particular vasana, that is allowing that is Vishaya vasanas, or what the inclinations to attend to things other than ourselves. Attending to anything other than ourselves is a mental activity. It's thinking. So mental activity leads to activity of speech and body. So all actions, the root of all actions is the vasanas. As Bhagavan says in the second verse of Upadesha Undiyā, the fruit of actions will pass away. That is, when you experience the fruit of any action, it's thereby finished. But what remains are the seeds. Those seeds, he makes it clear, are vasanas. So the vasanas are what prompt us to do the same action again and again. So we experience the fruit of the action we've done in the past, but if the seed remains, we'll be doing the same action again and again, so long as we allow ourselves to be swayed by that vasana. If we don't want to, but we have the freedom either to be swayed by that or not swayed by that, that is where our freedom lies. So freedom of will and action is, that is our real nature. What we actually are is infinitely free, because there's nothing other than ourselves to limit our freedom. When we rise as ego, we limit ourselves. So we limit our freedom, but we don't completely, the freedom is just like our being. It's our very nature. So we cannot, though we can, when we rise as ego, our being seems to be limited to this form. And so it's limited, as this body, we're limited in time, we're limited in space, and we're limited in the sense that we're distinct from every other form. so we impose all these limitations on ourselves. So our being is limited. Our awareness is limited. We know this, we don't know that. Our happiness is limited. We have a little happiness here and a little bit misery there. And our freedom is likewise limited. But though we have limited freedom, we always have freedom. And we have to use that freedom to regain our original freedom. We can regain our original freedom only by ceasing to rise as ego. That is why we need love to turn within. What is bhakti? Bhakti is love. That is will. If we have no freedom of will, then bhakti becomes meaningless. We have the freedom to like to go outwards or the freedom to like to go back within. Which freedom are we going to, which are we going to, we have two options, either to go out or to go in. Which do we want to choose? We have that freedom to choose that. Unfortunately, most of Bhagavan's oral teachings were recorded not in Tamil but in English. So the Icchā Kriya Svatantra, they use the closest English equivalent, free will. But free will is not an adequate translation of Icchā Kriya Svatantra. Icchā Kriya Svatantra means freedom of will and action. Sometimes when Bhagavan analyzed it a bit deeper, he would talk about Icchā Svatantra and Kriya Svatantra to explain the difference, but they go hand in hand. So generally he talked about Icchā Kriya Svatantra.